So we started our service this week with Rabbi Sheffa Gold's chant, Ozi Zimrat Yah. We started it that way because those are some verses from the Song of the Sea. And here's how Rabbi Sheffa translates the words. My strength, balanced with the song of God, will be my salvation. So let's take a minute and picture the moment when these words were sung as part of the Song of the Sea. The Hebrews have just been released from slavery, and they're trapped between Pharaoh's armies on one side and an impassable sea on the other side. Moses raises up his staff, and the Sea of Reeds majestically splits, and the Jewish people are saved from the Egyptian army by walking on dry land to the other side. So what do they do next? Well, the logical thing they should do is just fall down on their knees and pray, but that's not what they do. Instead, they pick up musical instruments and they start to sing. They start to sing. Our tradition believes that they chose to sing because song is an inspiring way to get to our deepest places. That's why so many of our prayers are sung rather than spoken. It's a traditional way our prayers are evoked. I know that we all feel swept away to our deepest places when we hear Cantor Andy's voice, and we want to join him in those places during communal prayer. Even if we're distracted, even if we're not into it, we just can't help it. Cantor Andy drags us into this place, and we're all happy to be in this place together, in this beautiful place of beautiful music and song and deep connection to however you understand it. We make our entry into a sacred place. So what is it about the power of song? Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has a very beautiful quote about the power of song. There's an interconnection between music and spirit. Religious worship cannot do without music because words are the language of the mind and music is the language of the soul. Words are the language of the mind and music is the language of the soul. So yes, my strength, balanced with the song of God, will be my salvation. Now, the Song of the Sea, if you read it in the Torah, it's very lengthy. And because it's so lengthy, the rabbis just love this. They have derived so many beautiful teachings from the Song of the Sea. And I want to share one with you, which is actually one of my favorites. So let's take a minute, look back at the context, The Israelites have just been saved. They've been rescued. And in this moment of gratitude, the women on this side of the sea pick up tambourines and cymbals and start dancing around and join Miriam in song. And they say these words, which Andy sang when he sang Mi Kamocha, and we all joined him. Ze Eli. Ze Eli. This is my God. And there's a little part added to it, I will exalt him. Now there's an incredible midrash that explores these words. In this midrash, the rabbi suggests that the words were sung by the women on the shore of the sea because they once again recognized a God they had experienced before. Now you all remember the story about Pharaoh declaring that all Jewish boys should be killed right after birth. So in order to avoid this, the Jewish women went into the fields and hid from the Pharaoh's courtiers and delivered babies. And in that field, there were midwives who courageously attended to them. But the Midrash says that in addition to the midwives being there, God was there. And God was comforting each of the mothers and attending to them as they delivered their children. Little did we know that God was also a labor doula. So they're at this moment of relief at the shores of the sea, and they stand up and they say, Zeh Eli, this is my God. I remember this. I've been with this divine entity before. So it's their way of acknowledging that they had experienced God before. And this made me think about what it means to experience God, the way those women did at the shores of the sea. It's been a terrible time for us. Many of us almost became paralyzed by the pain and grief of the many stories we've heard about the destruction during these catastrophic fires. But within this morass of pain and grief, there have also been many moments that I've heard about that might lead one to say, Zeh Eli, this is my God, just like the women did on the shores of the sea. So I'd like to share a few moments, a few Zeh Eli moments, both some personal ones and some stories I've heard that make us come into balance with this terrible time. You know, Belle and I really didn't have much personal loss from these fires. We were evacuated and went to La Jolla, which is our happy place. And we stayed there until it was safe to return home. One night, we decided to go to a takeout place to get some food. And we went to this takeout kitchen, and we told the woman we had been evacuated, and that's why we're there. She insisted that we didn't pay for our dinner. We told her, listen, it's okay. I mean, you know, we haven't suffered that much. She said, no. You're not paying. That's it. You're not paying. You're taking the dinner home for free. And she just wanted so much to do something good, to do something for someone else, to make this difficult time a little bit better. And there's another moment I heard about from my friends, Andrea and Brian Mark. You know, many of us know them because they come to our events sometimes. They went back to their house to sort through the rubble. You know, Brian's a sculptor, and they were hoping to find some of his sculptures. He had about 20 of them in his house, still intact. Of course, none of them were intact. They all had kind of exploded from the heat. And while they were sorting through the rubble, this woman came up to them and said, oh, I'm so sorry you lost your home. And she said, my church sent me here to visit the people while they were searching through their homes. And then she promptly handed them a bankroll of money and said, you know, the church has raised money for people who've lost their home, and they sent me out to give this money out. So please take it from me. At first, the Marks didn't want to take it because, you know, economically they're okay. But, you know, of course, not taking a gift can be really selfish. When someone wants to gift you something, the kind thing to do is to say thank you and just accept it. So they accepted the gift, and it was just such a wonderful thing for this church to do, to give money anonymously to people they didn't even know, to support them. And there's one more story I want to tell you. It's about my friend Victor. He's a good friend of ours, and he was in his house, and he went out on the street, and he could see houses on both sides of him burning. He hadn't gotten an evacuation warning, and he recognized that next to him on both sides of his house were little old ladies who lived alone, one of which was kind of demented. So he packed up quickly, and despite the smoke, and I'm sure he was feeling pretty panicked at the time, he went to his neighbor and made sure his neighbor was successfully evacuated. He took her with him, and he went across the street, got another neighbor to take the other lady with him to take care of both of his neighbors. He really could have just ran away, but instead he thought of others. So, you know, when I think about all these, and these are just a few stories I've heard, these are definitely Zeh Eli moments. Just like Moses raised his staff and parted the seas, these people did good things. They raised their hands. You know, Judaism is not just a religion of faith. It's a religion of action. The way we show our faith is by doing good things, by being God's hands, feet, eyes, and arms here on earth, bringing God's divine presence into the world. So, this catastrophe and these Ze'elim moments made me realize, I'm probably missing a lot of Ze'elim moments in my life. Everything seems to go so seamlessly and wonderfully past us and quickly in lives that we don't take time out to really realize all the moments of divine presence in our lives. So, just as I like to say, God gives us these little God slaps in our face to show us that there is a divine loving presence in the world. Bhavani and I were visiting our grandchildren. It wasn't anything special. We just hadn't seen them for a week, so we decided to just go over there for an hour or so and play with them. And so we hung out with them. Belle helped my grandson clean up some bookshelves in his room, and I was playing with Barbies, which it's not my thing, but I was playing with Barbies anyway. And after we finished, of course, there were the sweet little hugs that your grandchildren give you. And then my grandson said, "Why are you leaving so soon? Why are you leaving so soon?" And my heart really broke open. And I said, you know what? In thinking about speaking tonight, I realized that's another Ze'elim moment. And at the time, I didn't recognize it. So it was really a moment where God was calling out to me through the little voice of my grandson. So these catastrophic times have affected us all in different ways. Our task is to acknowledge the pain and grief and then find a way to move on. One of the best ways to move on would be not to dwell in the grief and sadness, but use these moments of recovery to look for the times in your life when you can say, Ze'eli, this is my God. And there's probably more of them than you think. And for some of you, you may feel a need to sing, because remember, a song are the words of the soul. So you may need to sing, or find a way to sing. And I think if you do find a way to sing, your song will be filled with love and gratitude, because we all have been gifted with so many wonderful things. And one other Ze'eli moment I forgot to mention. There was this Ze'eli moment when we all gathered together and thought what we could do for our beloved Sherry. And we continued to be in her as sources of support in her lives and available to her however she wants us to be. She's a beloved member of our community, and we are firmly and a heart-based attached to her and will be forever. So, despite this recent tragedy, let's all find ways to be together, to be connected, to recognize that this is one world and we all are participants in it, and it's our task to make it a better place. Shabbat Shalom.